Okay, Mr. Clerk, our next recipient.
Our next presentation recognizes the Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Committee for sponsoring the 5th Annual Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Fair. This presentation is made by Council Members Menor and Pine.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilmember Menor.
Thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure to introduce several members of the Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Committee. As you know, hurricane season in Hawaii runs each year from June 1st to November 30th. State and city emergency officials continually stress to the public the importance of always being ready for natural as well as man-made disasters and emergencies. One community group that has stepped up its efforts to ensure that Eva and Eva Beach residents are well prepared for whatever comes their way is the Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Committee, or Eva EPC for short. For the past several years, the Eva EPC has sponsored the annual Get Ready Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Fair, which educates residents and prepares families for all types of emergencies, including natural and man-made disasters and school lockdowns. This year marks the 5th anniversary, the 5th annual Get Ready Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Fair, which is scheduled for Saturday, September 5 at Eva Mackay Middle School from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The event is free and open to the public and held in September to coincide with National Preparedness Month. Those of you who have yet to attend an Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Fair will be amazed, really amazed, at the amount of effort and work needed to operate and organize an event of this magnitude. There are dozens of tables and booths staffed by emergency preparedness experts from various cities, state, and federal agencies. And these experts have partnered with volunteers from the private sector, scientific community, local business, and community organizations like the Boy Scouts and high school JROTC units to sponsor informational booths offering tips on how to prepare a family evacuation plan, how to pack a survival kit, and other important tsunami and hurricane preparedness topics. At last year's fair, organizers gave away more than $10,000 worth of preparedness items and featured a scaled-down emergency shelter unit for people to walk through. And in fact, this morning, the group has provided us with a kit, an emergency kit. It's called the Humanitarian Daily Rations. And actually, this is the group's contributions to our lunch today, Chair. So, not as good as a bento, but it'll fill you up, and it's got a lot of nutrients. Anyway, for more on this dedicated group of volunteers, I yield the floor to Councilmember Kymberly Marcos Pine.
Thank you very much. The Eva EPC was formed on in March of 2011 after a powerful windstorm struck West Oahu and the North Shore. The high winds toppled trees and utility poles and caused a power outage for tens of thousands of residents and businesses. Among the hardest hit communities was Eva Beach, where the main road, Fort River Road, was nearly impassable. Of the 22 utility poles that were knocked down by the heavy winds and rains, 15 of them were along Fort River Road. To make matters worse, an ongoing strike by Hawaiian Electric Company workers complicated efforts to restore power. Community leaders urged then Governor Abercrombie for assistance and to declare a state of emergency. They also appealed to HECO and the union to set aside their differences and instead focus on the public safety and well-being. Thankfully, they did, and HECO crews restored power a few days later. For Eva and Eva Beach, a fast-growing community of more than 80,000 residents, it was apparent that the vast majority of its residents and businesses were ill-prepared for a large-scale disaster. A tsunami warning just days after that, resulting from a 9-point magnitude earthquake off Japan a few weeks later, also added to the sense of urgency. Elected officials and other leaders from Eva and Eva Beach decided to meet and discuss ways of better preparing their community for future disasters, and the idea of Emergency Preparedness Fair was thus conceived, and volunteers from that meeting formed and eventually became the Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Committee that doesn't just do fairs, but they educate now people all over the island and recently helped Nanakuli launch their own event. The first such emergency preparedness fair, dubbed the first annual Get Ready Eva Beach Fair, was held a few months later in September. The event attracted over 1,000 residents from across Oahu and featured approximately 30 vendors, which is almost double today, I'm sure. I yield the floor back to Councilmember Menor.
And so as a result of Eva EPC's efforts, Residents of Eva and Eva Beach are now well-educated and equipped with the knowledge and skills to be safe and calm in any emergency. Not only are they better prepared, but their community has been recognized by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration as a tsunami-ready and storm-ready community. And so with us this morning are several members and leaders of the Eva EPC, whom I'm pleased to introduce at this time, and we really appreciate all of their efforts on behalf of our communities. And when I call your name, please raise your hand to be recognized. We have Don Harler, who's the chair, Richard Rode, who's co-chair, Ray Cordero, secretary, Rodney Boucher, who's the outreach volunteer coordinator and also member of the Eva Neighborhood Board, Patty Harler, another volunteer, Kawayalapa, media coordinator, Paul Tomita, who I don't know if he's present, but he's also one of the leaders of the group. And so, therefore, without further ado, the council, on behalf of the City and County of Honolulu, hereby congratulates and commends the Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Committee for sponsoring the 5th annual Eva Beach Emergency Preparedness Fair and for their efforts to educate and equip their community with the knowledge and skills to be safe and calm in any emergency. The council wishes the Eva EPC's members and volunteers the very best and for continued success in their endeavors. And you can continue to count on our support. Mahalo again for joining us.